Welcome. Yeah, okay. Get the formalities out of here, guys. We're not backstage anymore. We're live to the world here on X. Welcome to the live stream tonight. It is Sunday, September 14th. I'm saying that because I'm delaying while I am making sure that I pin this to the top of my page. Make sure that you guys all hit the retweet button on this to start with. We have a lot to talk about tonight, and it's going to be and this is I actually kind of feel like we might all be on the same page. I'm kind of interested if Remzo is going to be on a different side of the page on this one, because I want to talk about cancel culture. And I want to talk about people celebrating, and we've seen some disgusting things. I'm not going to re-promote them by posting the videos here, but we've seen a lot of gross stuff coming from the left, coming from people who hated Charlie Kirk post his absolutely brutal, disgusting murder, assassination, if you want to call it that. I was horrified by that video, and the fact that anyone could even see that or know that someone who has a different political view was murdered and then celebrated is disgusting to me. Looking at this, there's been an argument back and forth whether or not people should be canceled because they've celebrated it. I think it's different because of where we are as a society and what they are actually celebrating. There goes Chris. I don't know what's happening. What do you guys think? Because my opinion is I don't want people who are doctors, nurses, teachers, people who have lives in their hands, psychologists, airline pilots, being in a position where they can harm other people when they're cheering for the harm of someone who thinks the way that I do, or even would cheer for the death of someone because of their political beliefs. Remzo, you might be the one that disagrees with me. That's why I want to start with you.
You know, a week ago, Tim, I would have said that I think the list tracking is horrible. I would have said that firing people over, nebulous reasons would be ridiculous. And, naming and shaming people publicly is just never something you should do. But I don't feel that way anymore remotely. And I'm not coming at that from somebody that didn't, have some skin in the game at some point. When Parler was indicted by the Democrats in 2021 after the January 6th incident, I was not working there at the time. I had left in February in the December of 2020. But for 6 months, I was basically looking over my shoulder everywhere. I was traveling across the country, couch surfing on friends' sofas because I was afraid to be home. I was afraid to be around my family in case something happened to my family that lived in DC. I was seeing just so much vitriol that, I wasn't there. And, later on in June of 2021, the FBI themselves would go ahead and absolve Parler of any involvement or wrongdoing in regards to the incident on January 6th. But it didn't stop people. And, for 4 years, even from conservatives, I was shunned. I was ostracized. I was kept out of things. And I was just happy to have a job and a career. And I moved from DC to the Midwest, where I stayed for years. And I thought, if I could just go around the rest of my life just being ignored, that would be okay. And then over the last year and a half, I got pulled back in. And, I helped Patriots go ahead and get things done in Pennsylvania, largely with the help of Charlie and Turning Point USA with, my good friend Cliff Maloney, who pulled me back from obscurity to help him with that. And, since then, Tim, you and I have had long talks about what it's like being back, so to speak.
Yeah.
And, as I look at this, it's a completely different situation. I think it's disgusting that people even try and conflate this with George Floyd, who was a menace to society, who had held pregnant women at gunpoint, who was fighting with the cop, who had done just heinous things throughout his life. You compare that to Charlie Kirk, and it couldn't, it's apples to oranges. But what we're seeing now with people celebrating the public execution, the public political execution of a peaceful man because they didn't like his opinions. This isn't a left or right issue. And this is where I've had to struggle the last 5 days. This isn't a left or right issue. You're an adult. We were all raised with a basic sense of morality, whether you were Christian or Jewish or whatever. We're all raised that you don't hurt people. You don't take their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But, the last 4 years, especially since the left took the country hostage in 2020, I used to say, well, at least I don't have to worry about this to a certain point. They will celebrate when you die. And this, this, what we're seeing right now, and I feel so conflicted saying this, but like I'm reminded of how many people are going straight to hell
Yeah.
today. A lot of people can't be saved. A lot of people are festered by demons. We're dealing with moral eunuchs like Stephen King, and these ethical philanderers on the left who are trying to talk about empathy and all this other bullshit. And I'm at the point where I'm just like, if you're an adult, and you're going to publicly celebrate the murder of a man in public like this, like you don't, I don't want you to be my bank teller. I don't want you to be
Yep.
my lawyer. I don't want you to be my doctor. I don't want to do business with you. I can't do that because you might like puppies and you might say nice things to children. You might hold the door open for an old woman and you and I might share a laugh. But when it comes to the basics of how we're supposed to live amongst each other, I know that when the chips are down, you will kill me. You will salt the earth. You will take away my liberty. You will go after everyone I love, and you will laugh the entire time. And I feel no sympathy for these people. I feel no sympathy for them whatsoever.
Yeah.
Oh, I lost my job. Why did you lose your job? Like, tell me why you lost your job. Because you celebrated the public execution of somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel nothing for you. Do I hope you get a job eventually? I certainly don't want to be paying your food stamps, but adult actions require adult consequences. And nobody has ever seen this type of action on the right ever in my lifetime. I don't think in any of your lifetimes. You can't fuck around and find out and not deal with the consequences of that.
Yeah. 1,000%. Shell, what do you think?
Ditto. I agree 100% with everything that he said. Here's my thing. You can't scream free speech on this one. You just can't. And that's what they're trying to do. Well, it's supposed to be free speech. Why am I losing my job? Well, have you ever thought that, you represent a company, you represent a brand, and that maybe, your free speech doesn't count in this one. You've got to be responsible with your speech now. And
Well,
you celebrated
what
a
I would say
man's
is
death.
they have free
You
speech.
know,
They can say whatever they want, but there's
yeah, they
consequences.
say whatever they
A,
want, but
a
just don't,
private enterprise, yeah, there's consequences with your private employers. You were pointing out.
absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
No, that's all I was saying. I was agreeing with you in that. I mean, they've they've leveraged their free speech right. They're not going to jail, but your free speech rights are, your employer may have a different view of the views that you're espousing, and it's completely their right to terminate you, as a result if they don't. If it's not reflective of, as you pointed out, their brand, their culture, their audience, their customer base. But nobody's abandoned their free speech rights.
Buxer said, bye, bye, bye. Don't cry. Fuck around and find out. It's time we see consequences. Yeah, look, it's one thing, like you're talking about people who, and somebody tried to like do this, like, oh, Tim's a hypocrite because he used to say, you shouldn't be canceled for like wearing masks, because there was a story at one point where people were reporting people in Minnesota for their neighbors for not wearing masks, and they tried to pull that out, which is like stupid. It's one of these like Rhino pro DeSantis accounts that tried to pull that out and really get me or something today on it. But there's nothing celebrating the brutal murder. Like I almost feel like we're in a position where if you can watch that video and be okay with it, because I think everyone saw it and it was horrifying. The close-up video is there were no words that can describe it. It's awful. If you can watch, I mean, honestly, like even now, like this is like, and I told myself, and this is one of the things we can talk about too, but I wasn't going to post a video of me crying, right? But I think we all had a cry. I'm not one of those people who pulls a camera out and wants to film myself crying for clicks. I just don't think that that's a genuine thing to do. But I had a moment because I watched a friend die. And then talking about it, like doing these media hits and having this conversation. Now we're talking about somebody who, well, I wasn't like close with him, but he was an acquaintance. Anytime I reached out, we had a conversation. When he saw me in the hallway, we stopped and talked. It's like one of those things. I'm not like clout chasing with this, which I think a lot of people are doing, which is kind of gross, but he was a good man. Like he literally.
A lot of people. A lot of people. That's shocking to me. It really is. They're just, they're running big spaces on X, and they're bringing in all the experts. And, what do they even know yet? What did we know? A few things from today and yesterday, but They're just clouding off of all of it, getting that, audience click and that money, that X money.
Can I just
I'm sick about it. I'm sorry, I had to say something.
No, real quick. I don't know what's happening with Chris's camera there. Real quick, the fact that Jamal is the nicest person on the internet and he says no sympathy for these lunatics that lost their jobs. Literally, Jamal's entire account is about giving, like, spreading positivity. And you get what you deserve.
We love you, Jamal.
Yeah. And the message there from Australia as well. Chris, how's your internet doing? Not good?
It kept kicking over to VPN. I think I got it straightened out.
Okay, good. You got the VPN, so you can access Pornhub here in Texas.
Yeah, that's it.
Tough for you out there. You got to do the thing. No, I just, there are so many levels of this that bother me. And if you can, where I was going with this before I digressed was, if you can watch that video and cheer for what happened, you're a demon. You're a demon. You should have no place in polite society or in America. I don't care who it is. I don't care who it is. Like, it could have, it could have been somebody like that wasn't Charlie Kirk. It could have just been a normal person that wasn't assassinated for politics. I would never cheer. I would never be happy for someone who was murdered, or because they were murdered. I don't understand how someone can be that evil. And these people, they weren't connected to Charlie. They were told what to think about Charlie. And then they took from what they were told, which were mainly lies.
Mhm.
And they now cheer for a brutal killing. We're not in normal America anymore. We're in a really, really bad place. And those people need to face repercussions for their actions. And it is not an offense on free speech to say, hey, I don't want a murderer working for my company. Or I don't want someone who cheers for murder working for my company. Because if they cheer for him dying, they'd cheer for any of us dying. And we've reached that point. Sorry, anybody can say anything now.
Well, Tim, what should be the consequences for some of these elected officials that are also cheerleading,
Oh,
or mocking his murder?
hold on, Putnam, because you sent me a story earlier. Let me pull this up. Where are we at? I have so many of these. By the way, I've been retweeting everybody that I can possibly retweet today. Is it on your page at the top? Because there is
I texted a couple to you.
Well, I can't look at text.
Yeah, they'll be close to the top on my page.
Here you go. Here's another one. Another Fort Worth council member has a problem with Charlie Kirk. After this councilman, after Councilwoman Elizabeth Beck shared on social media posts mocking Kirk's assassination. Here you go.
We did exclusive story this afternoon. We got some internal City of Fort Worth emails, and this guy's just ranting. The emails are in the article, by the way. He's just ranting about the city, flying the American flag half-staff in honor of Charlie, and saying crazy things like, "Who ordered this?" As if you don't know that the president ordered it, and maybe the city needs to revisit these policies in the future. It's crazy. This is coming off one of his colleagues last week, immediately after the shooting, had taken an old Charlie post that talked about, unfortunate deaths as a result of gun ownership, and she splashed "unfortunate" across it, just outwardly mocking his assassination.
I mean, to be honest with you, and I know it sucks because this is where we are now in America, but the flag is half-staff most of the time. It's nothing to, and I'm not saying it's nothing in a negative way, but it's nothing to honor someone by moving the flag. So you have to really be a piece of shit to be complaining that the flag is half-staff.
At least these same people didn't complain about the flag being at half-staff for George Floyd.
Yeah. I mean, listen, by the way, if you guys are watching this right now, thank you for commenting. I'm going to try to get to some of these comments as well. I've been posting them up. A lot of good people in the chat today. If you can retweet this or repost it, it'd be a big help getting the messaging out there. I again, like
No,
this.
my question was, what should the consequences be? The one woman is going to be subject to a
Removed from
recall
office.
election.
Removed from office. I mean, specifically in this instance, we're talking about someone who was murdered because of political opinions. And if you're an elected official who's okay with someone being murdered because of their political opinions, you shouldn't have your office.
And then the nerve of some of these politicians, like, we here in Dallas, we have Jasmine Crockett.
Mhm.
Oh God,
you
I
know,
knew her name was going to come up.
yeah, we've got her
God,
right
I
here
mean-
at home. And then they issue these DNC scripted platitudes, and then 5 minutes later, they're right back to posting videos calling everybody a Nazi and a white supremacist. They're literally inciting this along with their friends in what I call the lying legacy media.
Can we just do the thing? I want to do the thing. Again, it's so weird to. It's weird to memorialize, number one, someone who's 14 years younger than you. It's weird to memorialize someone who is, and it's awful. I say weird. It's the wrong choice. I'm going to say a lot. I have lots of wrong choices of words coming up, folks. A guy that I would see regularly and I could DM and he would, help with whatever I needed. But Remzo, you haven't gotten a chance to publicly talk about stuff. And I know that I've been checking in on you because it's been pretty heavy on you. Not to pull back the curtain here, but if you want to talk about it, like I think this is a good forum to do it in. Because it's earnest, and for me, he was just a good guy. He was just the guy. Like I just saw him around, and I used to give him a hard time because we'd see each other. He would fill in for Breitbart early on in his career when I was in for filling in Sirius 2, and we'd pass each other in the studio and talk for like 20 minutes in between shows. And I'd be like, oh, it's Mr. Big Shot with his team here, and and he, it was like a normal back and forth, and it was just he was just like a guy. He was just such a nice guy, and that's the one thing. Like, and I know everything as the court jester. I know everything. That's negative. I think all three of you know from private conversations. I know everything about everybody. And there was never anything bad about Charlie. There's never anything bad. I never heard a negative thing about Charlie. And he lived the life that he portrayed himself as, and he lived that level of Christianity that he held out for other people. He was the person he was the example. We got Steve Gruber in here too, but Remzo, go ahead.
Here's a side story. I had dinner with Kyle Rittenhouse about 8 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And some things about Kyle Rittenhouse. One, Kyle doesn't I don't think he's really active on social media anymore, but Kyle doesn't like people taking photos with him. And if you do ask to take a photo with him, he asks that you post it weeks later and you don't say where it was. That was something that was very odd about him. He's younger than me. I'm 30. And that was just something I noticed. And I went with a group of folks. It was about, 7 of us, and Kyle sat across from me. And, it was one of those things where it's like I had seen everything that happened to him. And I had actually lived in Wisconsin from 2021 until just this past April. And, I was making the move out to Nevada at that point. And, it was just he didn't like doing that. He, in his, he's always carrying, and I'm not saying anything that he hasn't been open about, but like, there's always the way you see somebody online versus how they are in person. And what I saw of Kyle Rittenhouse is, I served in the U.S. Army as a child. I did comic book donation drives for Walter Reed Medical Center. Came from an active Army family, so I don't say this in jest. When I met Kyle Rittenhouse, I met the single-handedly most traumatized person I'd ever encountered in my life.
Yeah.
And, everyone was kind of asking him questions. Some of the folks were his colleagues, others, me and a few folks had just met him for the first time. We were all getting dinner, and I just really tried to listen a lot. And, the one thing he said was, when I was in jail, Charlie was messaging me. When I was in trial, Charlie was messaging me. And then we all remember that the first real public events that Kyle did were Turning Point. And, at the time I remember seeing that, and I'm like, this guy's gone through so much, and now he's going to go out there and try and do this. But what I didn't understand at the time, and I really understood this later, it was like, this was Charlie not trying to make Kyle a spectacle, but this was Charlie giving Kyle back his dignity and showing him that people knew the truth and people saw what happened. And that's just one story, but that's the biggest one I remember, because he did that for many people. He did that for me because, a mutual friend, Jen Grossman, from the Atlas Society, was putting together, a panel of folks at, a young leaders conference that Turning Point was putting on. They were piggybacking off of Freedom Fest. And, I remember she was told, Charlie just loves everyone on the list. And I'm thinking, does he really know everyone on the list? And this is back like in 2017. So I go to Vegas for the first time, thinking it would be my last time. Joke's on me. And I just remember seeing Charlie running around the entire time. And this is like Turning Point, like year 2 or 3. Like, it was big among like our circles, but like it wasn't what it is now. And it was Charlie and his staff doing a lot of the heavy lifting. And I remember I went up and I did my panel, and I sat next to Adriana Sixto, and who's a Turning Point contributor, and one of the former Miss Alaskas, who I was just like, I'm sitting next to a former Miss America contestant, like, what the hell? And I remember after that, I got off, and I saw Charlie. I was doing a podcast at the time, went to shake his hand, and I felt like he was kind of like on autopilot mode, like, hi, how are you? What I didn't realize later was that he had been up since 4 a.m. and there was an issue with the tables or something in the room. And he himself was coordinating with like the hotel staff at Bali's. Now it's the Horseshoe. And, he was doing everything, and he was talking to everybody, and he was out and about. And I didn't realize that there was an age difference between us. There wasn't. He was a year older than me. I didn't realize how close in age we were. And, I thought I was, hot stuff at the time, but like Charlie was putting in so much of the work. And he was, he wasn't just a good speaker. He wasn't just a good guy to put in front of the camera. From everyone that, worked with him. And I worked with many people on his comms team across the last 10 years, from when I was at the Washington Times to when I was at Parler, to even, this past year and a half with the Pennsylvania Chase. Like, the man was a millennial Robert E. Lee in terms of his strategic mind, in terms of how to deploy cash and people and use people's talents. I don't think people really understand this if you don't really understand what the conservative movement is in terms of trying to create actual, literal, tangible change. The kid was in his 20s and he was mobilizing Donald Trump's people. Mm-hmm. And, I look at this now only in retrospect, and I'm just like, it's like he was running a race knowing he only had a finite amount of time to do it. Because we know many people, and I look back at a lot of the, a lot like the think tank advocacy groups right now throughout the country, and all these people that collect like $250,000 checks and everything, who would not, it's sad from our own people. We can't even put up a rest in peace Charlie Kirk graphic on some of these organizations, X accounts. And it's just like, you look at what he did with the time he had, with the struggles he had, trying to corral all of us caused Charlie stress at some point, if you worked around that circle. And, he changed the nation. And, when I met him for the first time, it was 2015. I met him at a FreedomWorks summit in Cincinnati, and that was like FreedomWorks year 1 or 2. I'm sorry, Turning Point USA year 1 or 2. And we were sitting at a table eating lunch, and I was just like, I have no clue who this kid is. Like, he's talking all this stuff. Like, what's he even doing here? And 5 minutes later, he's up and he followed Glenn Beck, who had just finished speaking. And I'm like, what's going on here? To see him from the beginning, mm-hmm. to what he was able to do. I was with the team in Pennsylvania on election night. I'm over the left side of Cliff Maloney's shoulder, peeking my head in when Charlie got the news. I don't think a lot of people remember this, but like after the 2020 election, Fox shit canned Charlie. A lot of organizations, a lot of people pushed him away. And while a lot of people, and I would say myself included, were just afraid, and we were, sticking our head in the ground, making sure that we could just salvage what we had, Charlie didn't do that. And Charlie did that at a huge risk to himself personally and professionally. And to have shared that moment with him on Real America's Voices on election night was one of the highlights of my life. And it's just a crying shame that, I hope 6 months from now we still carry this energy. I hope, a year from now we still carry this energy, because he was a once in a lifetime individual. He was an American classic. He was a true leader. He is the civil rights leader of my generation. And, to have witnessed somebody who was only a year older than me, somebody who I would consider an industry colleague, whose career I saw up close, move. I don't want to embellish anything. Like, I was always around the circle. I was always a behind the scenes guy. It's just, it's tragic, because I only see the opportunities that were lost. I only see the things that were lost. He would have been president. He would have been president. I'm not saying that out of emotion. Charlie Kirk would have been president.
Gruber, where are you at on the, we started this conversation today about the canceling people who are cheering for the murder. Where are you at? And where are you at emotionally right now? Because I know you got me the other day. You got me fresh the other day on your show. How are you feeling? Well, your microphone's not working, so we'll find out what's happening later about that.
How about now?
There we go.
Yeah. Technology, not my friend. Anyhow, so I was about 25 minutes out from my live show on Real America's Voice, and the producer jumped in my ear and said, "Charlie's been shot." And I'm just processing that at the moment. And I actually got up and walked out of the studio and walked up and told my wife and daughter, I said, "Charlie Kirk has been shot." And they're like, "What do you mean? Is he alive?" And I said, "I don't have any idea." It was a shocking moment. And I can hear the people both in Denver and West Palm scrambling in my ear. So then we go into the program. And of course, at this point, you're getting reports and different things happening. And then John Solomon's on with us and tells us, confirms what's happened. So this all happened on live television for me, which is just a bizarre place to be, right?
Yeah.
When this all comes down. Emotionally, here's where I am. As soon as, and I've told the story a couple of times, I might have told you, my 20-year-old daughter, huge Charlie Kirk fan. My 20-year-old daughter 3 years ago was left somewhere, right? Like a lot of 17-year-olds, I suppose. And so when we were in DC for the inauguration, we went to Charlie Kirk's, party, and it was freaking awesome. And my daughter and my son got to meet him, because we walked into the America's Voice studios there, where John Solomon, they all shared studios. She's like, "Oh my God, it's Charlie Kirk." I said, "Yeah, he works here with all of us. You want to meet him?" And we all got a picture together, a family picture. Me and my wife, the two kids, and Charlie. And he would just come up, and he was so, he's busy as hell. He's got all these things going on. He comes right up and he shakes the kids' hands, and he spends several minutes talking to them and how you doing and what's going on in your life and so on and so forth. Back to your question about the people losing their jobs. Good. Look, here's the like as always and often done on the left. Well, what about freedom of speech? Oh, you got freedom of speech. Nobody denied that. There's consequences.
Yeah.
Charlie Kirk paid the highest possible consequence for having the freedom of speech and to say his mind. He was executed for it. And so, freedom of speech, if you lose your job, look, you're free to say whatever you want, but your employer doesn't have to take that. Freedom of speech applies to the government. But see, these people don't know anything about the Constitution or about the Bible or anything. That's why Charlie was such a gifted mind, because he was encyclopedic in a way that you don't see. He could sit there and tell you who wrote every book of the Bible, when they wrote it, how they wrote it, what it meant, and why it related to what we're doing today. His mind was so remarkable in a way that, to say he's generational, I don't even know if that's fair. He remarkable.
I don't know how he remembered things that he remembered, by the way. I have my
no
brain
idea.
doesn't work like that.
But as far as where I am, what I started to say is my daughter came in moments after we had learned that he had died and said, "Dad, I don't want you to do this anymore." She thinks that I'm going to be the next one, right? They just, because all of a sudden we have targets, all of us here, right? And frankly, I think that's bullshit. And it strikes me emotionally. I know where she's coming from. Will I quit? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
If I might be so bold, no fucking way would I bow to these people at this point. I have more fire. Look, I'm the oldest person on this screen right here, I'm quite sure. I have more fire in my belly today because of Charlie Kirk, a 31-year-old guy who had done things, because when I first met him, I'm like, who is this guy? Same way you guys go, who is this guy? Where did he come from? Like a meteor. Boom. And there's this, this sound and this explosion of talent. And I don't know. Look, Turning Point USA, I read, had 900 official college chapters, 1,200 official high school chapters, 3,500 affiliations somewhere. They've had 38,000 inquiries, I think is what I read today. 38,000 inquiries for new chapters today. Charlie Kirk has been seen, and I said this at the time, the day that we were on the air and he died, I said, Charlie Kirk will have more impact now than he would ever have had, because the following day, more people saw Charlie Kirk the day after than at any time during his life, which is a terrible, sad thing. But his impact, will the energy still be here in 6 months? I believe it will. I believe it's a generational change, because I can look at all these filthy people, I'll be polite a little bit, on the internet. Oh, it's this, it's that, and Charlie Kirk deserved this, that. You guys go ahead and keep spewing that nonsense. I have seen more accounts saying I was a Democrat, I was this, I was that. I'm out. I'm done with this. I would never affiliate with any of this stuff anymore. I think that there's this movement. I think there's this energy. I think more people are in church today than have been in church in probably years. I think more people are mad at their churches who didn't mention Charlie Kirk, right? I'm of a mind that the movement he started is magnified today in ways that it couldn't have been. I'm sad to say, if that hadn't happened, because it did happen, the energy, the commitment, the dedication to America and free speech and the Constitution, all these, I think it's amplified in ways we haven't even begun to see yet, except we've been seeing this shift. We were already seeing this shift. It was already the most conservative group of young people in 50 years, thanks in large part to Charlie Kirk. But because of what happened, it galvanizes these people. You think, like, any of those people that were there that were trying to argue with Charlie are going to go home and say, well, I want to be like the people that shot a guy for speaking his mind? Nobody wants that. Nobody.
Yeah.
The world changed.
Yeah. Shell or Chris, I think, Shell, you haven't talked in a minute. I'm going to get you back in here. I'm going to make a big screen. You actually, didn't you announce it? Weren't you the person who announced it to on the Rob Maness show? I mean, that had to be a rough.
Yeah, that was rough. That was rough. And Colonel Maness took that tough and rough. It was a tough show to get through. I do the simulcast, and the pre-show and the after show. The pre-show was about 3 minutes before we went live, and I had to tell the Colonel, and then it was, the after show was tough because he was popping in and out. He was trying to find information. He wanted to talk to us, but he needed to talk to others. And he had a reaction you could tell, that you don't normally see from Colonel Maness. And I was worried about everybody because we were all also like Steve, getting this information, from all sides, like he's, this is what's happening. No, this is what's happening. And we were trying to keep up with all of it for our audience, and it wasn't pleasant. I had the pleasure of being invited to first Believers in Ballots and in West Palm right after Trump was shot. And there wasn't very many people that got to go because the security was so high. And I was honored that I got to attend. And that was Charlie's first Believers in Ballots event. And, the man, I almost don't even have any words for it, because when he's on a stage, he's bigger than life, but then he's bringing life at the same time with what he tells you, the encouragement, the love. It's like he gives his entire audience this huge hug with every word he says, because he really means it, and he's there for you, and you're there for him. And You know, his encouragement and his light and everything. It's amazing, you know, to experience a person like that. It's a tragedy that he was taken from us, but we can all be him now. You know, I think he'd want us to take up that mantle and continue that message and get loud. And his wife, now as a woman, I'm going to bring her up. I haven't heard you guys say much about her yet. Erica's um, little TED talk with us about this. Um, she's going to be a force of nature. Okay. And we better buckle up because she's going to lead this with us. And I'm right behind her. I'll stand next to her. I don't know what you guys are thinking, but I see big, big things coming.
Well,
And I'm so proud of her. And I could just, I mean, I buried a husband. All right. I know the pain. It wasn't the pain, you know, that maybe she's feeling because everybody handles things much differently in the circumstances. But this lady, I'm on Team Erica right now. That's where I'm at. I can't wait to see what happens next.
I've seen her
It'll be
speak
great.
at and she has been speaking to young women for a while as part of the Turning Point events, and she was a big thing with the Young Women's Leadership Summit here not long ago in Dallas. And you know, and I used to have a character that was my little sidekick for a while, and my little sidekick was pretty inspired by her when we went to see her live. And also, by the way, Charlie and her made time for everybody. That was the crazy thing too. It was like for them running a conference, they always made time um, and would take time out for normies, not just folks like me. They always had time for people. Putnam, what do you got?
Yeah, we had our own, personal experience in the newsroom. My number two guy, fantastic COO Drew Robinson, his wife Amy Robbins, who some of you may know, she anchors different things on Fox and does appearances on Newsmax. They were very close friends with the Kirks. In fact, his wife Amy had spoken to Eric just the previous day, and when so we had some special knowledge of the fact that he had not made it, and we held it. There was a lot of crazy reporting going on that day, as y'all will recall. But just out of respect for her, for the family, and we waited for TPUSA and the president to make their announcement before we reported it. And our lead story the day after her speech, which was remarkable, I would argue, is maybe the most powerful, and I don't even know that I call it a political speech. It was just the most powerful speech, that you've heard any public figure make, perhaps this century. She just outlined where we are and where we have to go so clearly, and she was so strong, but also so vulnerable at the same time. It just, for us, it was really compelling. And our headline the next day was "A Leader's Born." To your point, they made a big mistake, and I say they because I know that this is all getting attributed to a crazy guy, but as we know, it is this collection of these radical left politicians and their enablers in the media that have incited these people, and sure, they're crazy. There's a lot of crazy people out there, but we've allowed these people to incite them with no accountability. And one of the things that we're watching really closely, of course, is the media reaction. Of course, now it's fairly definitive at this point, this trans linkage and, of course, what was inscribed on the bullet casings. And, just look around, like nobody's reporting it. We have, of course, but I look at my two competitors here in the DFW or the Dallas Sporting News and Star Telegram, and I literally have like a clock on my X profile saying, all right, let's take a bet. How long before they actually report it? And we know how this game works. They won't until they can no longer ignore it. And they're not going to be able to ignore it this time for all the reasons that everybody here has said. And that, to me, is what fundamentally has to change. I lay as much blame on our legacy left media in this country as I do the politicians, because they choose to report things. They don't choose to report things. It's pure propaganda. As Elon pointed out, like 97% of people in the media, in media professions, are leftists. And when you have one party dominating a platform like that, it's unhealthy. And we've lost connection with the truth. You know, when we get back to a point where we're not just debating talking points and, you know, narratives, and, you know, of course, they're the gaslighting kings. I think they literally created the term, you know, for themselves. But like when we get to the point where we're actually, you know, debating the truth about these things and the truth about what happens, and maybe we all have a chance, because, you know, then we can debate it from a position of truth, rather than just arguing propaganda points made by the left media. But they're just, to this day, even with the Fox News and with the rise of all sorts of new media outlets, including ours, including everybody here, you know, it's their work is still pervasive, and that industry has to fundamentally change, you know, in order for things to change, I think.
How do we force that change, Chris? How do you suggest we make that change?
We have to encourage. I mean, there's only one way to do it, right? You have to hit them in the wallet. We have to just, I mean, as in the print media is dying. It's dying in
The
our
Washington
as well.
Post went ahead and they treated the leader of ISIS. They gave him a better headline than they gave Charlie. They gave the leader of ISIS the title of austere scholar, and they called Charlie a provocateur.
Right.
That itself says everything people need to know.
Yep. And again, go look around today. See what major legacy outlet is reporting this trans angle, because as we know, that's been a pervasive issue in this country as well. Trans violence. It's very real. All you got to do is go look at how these folks communicate to the outside world, and they're organized. Denying it for the sake of political correctness is irresponsible, and not reporting it is irresponsible because it's real. We just saw the worst example of it, but there's many, many more. This guy here in Fort Worth, Texas, that shot up the ICE facility. Same thing. You know, this guy the other day that killed those children. Same thing. We got to start talking about these things and dealing with it from a truth basis, and in being honest about the fact that there's a problem, and try to find a way to deal with the problem the other way. But because it doesn't fit their political agenda and narrative, they won't report it. When they do, to your point, Renzo, they'll twist it. They'll absolutely twist it. And that's what's going to happen here. Guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
Why can't we just call it trans terrorism and not trans violence?
I don't know.
That's what we do.
That's
Every article we do is trans terror, and then we tell the story. But to answer your question, we got to just encourage people to continue to leave them, right? Just you got to point out consistently that, look, there's better alternatives. You're not getting the truth. And particularly after the last 10 years, we basically lived in this crazy psyop where, you know, up is down and down is up and black is white and white is black. Russiagate, you know, COVID. I mean, just the list is exhaustive. It's just shocking that a lot of these outlets still have a platform, but they do. But we have to just keep reminding people that they're liars. They're liars.
Well, they're dying, some of them. I mean,
Yeah,
MSNBC is dead. CNN's dead. Chicken Noodle News, they're done. I mean, they're gone. Because they have no integrity, and everybody knows it. And the New York Times, Washington Post, it's new media, and and look, you look at the X, where we are right now. People know the truth because they saw what happened.
Yes.
They saw a young man get executed. And it was live streaming because they're always live. Everything's live. And then there's 10 billion videos. I got a friend of mine who, you know, has PTSD from military service. He tried not to see the video, saw the video, thinks he's probably going to spend 6 months in, you know, therapy, trying to figure out how to sort that out because it was so god awful. But people saw the truth, and that's the key. Deliver truth. Be honest about it. I'm a commentator. You know, Tim's a commentator. But when I talk about something, it's foundationally true. It's not bullshit. It's foundationally true. And I do my homework. I check my sources. I double check my sources. I know what's going on. There's no question about what this person was and where they came from. And these people out there are still pushing this, you know, idea that somehow he's a MAGA right person. No, it's not. It's insane.
With no evidence whatsoever, by the way.
None.
Right. No supporting data. They just lie.
Yeah, but they
But
plant that seed, right? So they can continue with the narratives. They think you've already heard the truth, so they can continue telling you the lie because you don't
The
actually believe the truth now.
And
You
they're
know,
experts at it.
you've
They
heard the
they know
lie
how to
first.
yeah, they're experts at it now. They know how to
Yeah.
repeat it, and then they'll gaslight you, and they convince a lot of these young impressionable people, and or these really disturbed people that that's the truth. I can't tell you how many examples, and I'm sure you all have seen all of them this week, of people just repeating these lies about his position on LGBTQ generally,
Yeah.
about this one that just is pervasive,
The
which is
black airline pilot one is the one
he
that gets
told my
me.
yeah,
daughters
that's
he didn't want
terrible.
them to vote. Like he didn't want women to vote. It's just absurd.
I mean, can we just say like the very obvious, and I tweeted this multiple times, I think this weekend, but like these people who are like, we hate Charlie because of transphobia, homophobia, he doesn't like women. They're the same people who are like free Palestine.
Yeah.
Yeah, the New York Times went ahead and published a piece earlier this week, essentially saying that Charlie was an anti-Semite, and about
He
24
was
hours later,
literally in Israel when
Oh,
they
yeah,
that's next, by
moved
the way.
yeah, they
It was the Jews. That's next.
yeah,
That's next.
they went ahead and published a retraction, and they put their little correction out saying, we took his words out of context or whatever. And it's like, but it's not like they go out really publicly and push that. You've already said it. It's already out there. The paper's been printed. You boosted the post. You emailed it to
Exactly.
other sources to try and get your
Mhm.
people on media. Like, oh, sorry, I did it later. There's never consequences for this. And
Never.
what I'd love to see is Erica Kirk. I'd love to see her start suing the hell out of people. She
Yeah.
should sue
Yes.
the New York
That's what needs
Post.
to
I'm
happen.
sorry, the New York Times, not the New York Post. She should sue the New York Times. She should sue the Washington Post. She should sue MSNBC. She should sue all of them. All of
Well,
them. The only
the
thing they
first
ever
lady
understand is
does.
money. Yeah,
The first lady
exactly
doesn't
right.
let him get away with it. She'll file on somebody in a heartbeat because it's false information or it's defamation. If she can do it, Erica can certainly do it. And I hope you're right. I hope she does take it up and just sue the fire out of every last one of them.
Mhm.
One of the worst was Stephen King. He put one out there, got like 25
Yep.
million views, right? 25, 30. And he puts a retraction up. So I'll give him credit. That doesn't happen very often. And saying I was wrong about the information, but it got 2.5 million views. You go from 25 or 30 million views of the accusation,
Yeah.
and you get a fraction of that. So people they just keep that with them. But Shell, I gotta say something about the seeds, because in all of this, I'm still working through it like we all are. But when you talk about seeds, nobody planted more seeds than Charlie Kirk. And that I
Amen.
believe. Nobody planted more seeds on college campuses, in young people, in political awareness, in the awareness of Jesus Christ, and the awareness of what's right and wrong in this world. About morality is not situational. There are absolutes in this world. Nobody planted more seeds than Charlie Kirk. And I believe that is going to grow, and I think it's going to bear fruit. And so as heartbroken as we all are, and angry and devastated and all that whirlwind of emotion, don't lose track of the fact that he planted seeds that are now going to flourish. And I truly believe that. I do. I mean,
Look at
that's the
look
hope
at
I
all of the
have out there.
memorials all over the
Oh my
world. South
gosh.
Korea. I mean, in Russia, everywhere. Steve, those seeds were planted and they are
Yes.
already blooming
So
because of this. And they're
how many people are going to be in Arizona on Sunday? I mean, it holds 70,000. I mean, they're going to have
more.
people. Oh, it's
Oh,
going
you're
to
going to have people bleeding out into
Yeah.
the parking lot.
oh, there's going to
You're
be
going to
Yeah.
have people
hundreds
on
of
the
thousands of
streets.
people. Yeah, they'll need jumbotrons. They'll need everything. And I hate to say this, but it scares me, because these nut jobs will
Yeah.
think, oh look, open season on Trump supporters,
Yep.
open season on Charlie Kirk, because they're Nazis. It's Hitler. They're all goose stepping into Arizona Stadium to be fascists. See, because once you label somebody, then you dehumanize them. Then they become a
You know,
target, and then it doesn't matter if you kill them because you've justified it in your own little small mind, right?
Well, that's the
Steve,
impact of all this threat to democracy
yeah,
BS. That
that's been a big issue with me, though, Steve. Colonel Manus, Stars and Stripes,
I know, Rob.
in Omaha, October the 2nd.
Yeah.
I'm going. Margot in North Carolina is going. The first thing I thought about, ballots or believers in ballots again. October 15th through the 17th in Oklahoma City. Going? Am I going? I questioned everything after that. And I thought, not that I would be any kind of a target, but do I want to be a witness? Because this emboldened people. That's an excellent point that you made.
Yeah.
You wonder who they,
Who's the
have
next
now
crackpot?
on deck, huh?
Yeah. Who's the next crackpot that's going to come out?
Right.
Oh, look, I've got 500,000 Charlie Kirk supporters in one place. Let me be, whatever that they want to be. I'm not going
They've
to
already
change my
shot at the
deal.
president twice.
Right.
And I mean, now that
I will not
they've
quit.
tasted blood.
Yeah.
Well, I had lunch today with somebody who's a big NRA pro-gun person, was a center of a lot of stuff. And I'm going to be generic because I don't know if they want this out there or not, but they're invited to Chicago to speak and do like a debate on stuff. And they're like, I don't know.
I don't know either.
And they've been a major target, like major target before. I mean, I get death threats, right? Have we all gotten death threats? Everybody who's here? Has everybody gotten death threats?
It's not unique.
I've threatened people, but I haven't gotten any.
And that's just me on Thursdays. Yeah,
I'll tell you where, like, in terms of like January 6th, and like at that point, I had left Parler a month prior in December of 2020. I was unemployed. I was in my parents' basement in my boxers watching Fast and Furious 5. And suddenly I have everyone jumping down my throat. Like, you were there, weren't you? What did you do? What did you know? What are you people doing? And I'm just like, what's happening? 2021, outside of the horrors and the I call it the Great American Hostage Crisis of 2020. 2021 was a horrifying year for me, and it was because I feared liberals. I had so many reporters try and find me every way possible, but then it also sucks that many conservatives I felt were trying to protect their own skin, and it was like, sorry, we can't help you guys. Best of luck. And it's become so common that conservatives, we watch and we see what happened, and we all looked at the day after what happened to Charlie. No cities on fire, no police stations on fire, Portland, Seattle not occupied, no blocking of highways and bridges, teachers not dragging children out in the middle of class to go do anything. Yet they complain that when they celebrate somebody murdered, that there are consequences to that. Jack Posobiec was on CNN today, and he said that we are definitely in an asymmetric warfare of the left. The reporter kept trying to push him to say, are we in civil war? And he said, it's not going to look like civil wars of the past. But you see how the left has weaponized all the major institutions, corporate America, academia, you name it. They've been going after us for years. Why? Because we don't think you should mutilate children. We don't think you should kill people because they have a different opinion than you. I mean, it's sad. Like, we're not discussing, this isn't the Gingrich era of politics. Like, we're not discussing, tax cuts and healthcare and all that stuff. We're talking about our fundamental right to exist. That's what this has come down to. It was when Turning Point was first starting out, it was all about student loans and debt and taxes, and Bernie Sanders free healthcare is a bad idea, and it moved into this culture war era. Largely, I think that really in many ways, Charlie was the manifestation of the legacy of Andrew Breitbart, who died before his time. And I just remember the same people that are talking about how much they loved him were the same people who criticized him for being a culture warrior. And they were like, we got to talk about the tax code and, the debt and all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, we could talk about that. But people need to understand that you could be a Christian in public and you shouldn't be fired. You shouldn't be targeted. You should be able to talk about your faith. And they judged him for it. And we're in a culture war, and that's what it is. It's beyond all of this now. The left has been in a civil war of half the country for years. We just didn't want to actually wake up to it, and now we have. Because
don't you see it a little bit different now? I mean, because these people are. I'm watching teachers and firefighters and administrators. They are being fired.
Yeah,
we're past that whole. They can say these vile things. At least, my God, there are consequences for people on the left. I think it's a revelation right there. And I think it's a good one. You want to say vile things and dance on the grave of a 31-year-old father of two and And what? No, you don't get to do that, without consequences anymore. Just like I said, Charlie paid the ultimate consequence for freedom of speech. You can say whatever you want, but not your employer doesn't have to sit there and take it and listen to whatever you have to spew. Thank God. And so doesn't that feel a little bit different to everybody here? A little bit different finally that you're seeing people and you're seeing one. I mean, I see one after another online. Thank God. About time.
Yeah,
I
it's
feel a big
bittersweet. It had to
difference.
come to this point.
I feel a big difference, Steve. You know, at least we get a little vindication. We've had to be, you know, the party of law and order and the party of this, and we're, you know, we have to be reasonable, and we have to deal with everything they've thrown at us with you know, grace and dignity, and a good argument back, right? You know, a good platform, giving them the facts and the receipts of what we're talking about. We never get any satisfaction out of that. We just get mud slung at us, and you know, the name calling, and the you're a fascist, you're a homophobe, you're this, you're that, and we have to look them straight in the face and smile and go, well, thank you very much. Well, now we don't. Now we can say, you know what, we're done.
Yeah.
We're gonna let people know, you know, your true colors now. And are you gonna represent people for this, you know, anymore? No, you're not. We're gonna call you on the carpet. We're gonna get rid of you. That's it. You're done. You took our platform and our voice away. You know, I'm sorry. Tit for tat. Let's get it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a reason, we waterboarded terrorists. And sometimes terrorists don't
There you
understand anything
go,
about
Chris.
terrorism.
There you go. Yeah. See,
Yeah.
That's how
I have
we
a
live.
question for Tim.
Yeah.
Erica went ahead and announced that the campus tour would still be continuing. That their big event in December would still be continuing. Who do you think picks things up? We've heard that Ben
I don't want
Shapiro is going to go out there. That Alex Jones is going to go out there.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
You know who I think should take the place of. There's only a few people who are qualified to do it. And one of our good friends, is one of the few people who's qualified to do it. But I don't know. I think it's too fresh to drop who I think should replace him. I'll say it ain't me. And then we'll go from there. But I think
I think it's pretty easy to say no to the first two people on the list there
yeah.
for a variety of very obvious
I mean,
reasons.
look, if I'm looking for somebody to take Charlie Kirk's place, I look at somebody who can win a state, who's run an organization for young people, and who is charismatic. And that is there are very few people who fit that description. And I will get louder about that, after there's a memorial service and everything goes there, when it's all up in the air. I don't like that there's a race right now to fill the slot. His body is still warm, and I think it's kind of gross that everyone is rushing to
Agree with that.
on the back end. This is a behind the scenes conversation. I won't say who I've had that conversation with. It's been multiple people. But the fact that there are people jockeying for position and rushing to try to take his place now to kind of cash in on the open seat.
That should be an automatic disqualifier.
Correct.
That should be
I
an
agree.
automatic disqualifier.
But I have a friend in mind who I think there are very few people who could take his place. And I have a friend in mind who could, but I will reserve that for when the time is proper.
And that is not now.
It is not now.
May I give a little shout out
Yeah.
to someone? You know Tyler.
Yeah, Tyler Boyer.
Lawyer.
Yes. You know, Tyler and I, about a week and a half ago, were chatting about bringing Charlie on a shell-shocked one-on-one.
Hey.
Charlie's schedule,
Cool.
super hectic, right?
Yeah.
And he wasn't real positive about it because of the schedule. And I told him, give me an hour and I'll show you the power of spaces. And he was like, you know what? See what I can do. Such a nice guy. What a friend to Charlie. What, a partner, and a believer in the Turning Point movement. And I just want to say out loud how nice. He didn't have to talk to me. He didn't have to even understand anything I had to say. Even though I had been to Charlie's events and things like that. But Tyler, he's hurting right now. And I just want to tell him how much we love him. And you got this, and never give up, because this was a kick in the gut for the the TP, family. And I just wanted to give him a shout out and tell him how much I love him.
I am.
He's such a strong guy.
I'm going to shout out the entire staff over there.
There you go.
I
Get
couldn't
it.
imagine, and I said this the other day in the middle of my tweet storms about how angry I was about things. The staff of Turning Point, who were friends with him. I mean, he's in the office. When he's in the office, he's in the office. I have an inside look because of my ex-garbage fiance. And they were all friendly with him. He's always there. And I couldn't imagine the same day that this happened having to go and pull clips to put together a memorial package.
Oof.
And then, it's not just that. I mean, the production of then, and I'm not saying this in a negative way, the production of they put the camera on and did his show the next day with an empty chair.
Mhm.
They, helped Erica get her speech out, and they printed the signs, and this is, we look at it from a singular perspective, but when you understand how many hands are involved in that organization to make it work, and how close they were with him, that is, they did. I hope that they have time to grieve, because they have not had that time. And they aren't going to have that time, because they are now planning the memorial service that is going to be a mega memorial service. And they are all participating and doing their own thing. These kids, and a lot of them are kids, a lot of them are sub 25. There's a couple old ones there that are, around 30, maybe older than that.
You can call us elder millennials.
Yeah, the elder millennial. That's right. I give them all the credit in the world, because there's Marina and there's Sarah. Those two came to mind right away. Obviously Tyler. I don't know that they've experienced. No one has experienced anything like this, but they're right in the heart of it. And it's like, okay, hey, we now still have to represent this organization and moving forward and put these packages together. I couldn't do it. I like, that is horrifying. Now, I know I spent a weekend at SiriusXM when I worked there recording memorials for people who aren't dead yet, because that's what you do.
Every network has that. Yeah.
Yeah. You pre-record them just in case. You see who's old and you write the list. Charlie was 31. They had no plans on doing this ever. And like I said, he wasn't one of these guys who was like in his office. He was friends with everybody. I just couldn't imagine. I mean, it hit all of us. I can't imagine being that close and having to then go, all right, well, we got to go pull some dramatic clips of him to put together. It's unbelievable. And like their memorial, their tribute video to him was powerful. And I just don't know who the hell did it, but God bless them, because that's a lift in that scenario.
That was love and dedication right there.
Yeah.
I have one story to share. It helped me kind of get through the last couple of days. Today. I mean, time. It feels like a year, and it feels like an hour. Like, time just doesn't feel real right now. But last night, I've been trying not to be on my phone, and I was working yesterday. I had to help, somebody get on Newsmax and do AM and PM. So it was a Saturday work day, and I was like, I'm gonna go, to dinner with my wife. Went to PF Chang's, and I wasn't looking at my phone. And for like a few minutes here and there, it was like I was forgetting. I could mindlessly distract myself, and I went home, and throughout the last couple of days, I'd been texting people I knew who had that were either friends of him or had worked with him or had worked alongside him, just to kind of check in on people. But there was one friend who I hadn't spoken to since college, who was actually Charlie's executive assistant for 6 years. And I didn't think of his name once. And I text him, and I wasn't expecting anything back. And he texts back, and I'm like, call me. He doesn't call me. So I was annoying, and I called him 3 times in a row because I knew he can't block me enough. And he picks up the phone, and I'm like, you see, I knew if I was persistent enough, if I was annoying enough, you would have to pick up the phone, because it's the only way you could get rid of me. And I could tell that he had been crying, and he starts laughing. He's like, that's true. Fuck you. and we laughed for a moment, and I want to just catch up on him because I knew how close he was to him, on a personal and professional level. I didn't realize that Charlie, when he was consulted by the administration to help staff people, that he got my friend up there to work within the Oval Office as a staffer, and that's such an amazing thing from somebody who's about two years younger than me. And he had gone on his own career and he was working with Charlie, and now he's at the White House. I'm like, man, like, I know we haven't spoken in a while. I'm sorry I let our friendship lapse. After 2021, things got a little hairy there. And he was like, I know you were on the run, Remzo, all that stuff. And I was just like, I'm sorry I let our friendship lapse, but I know you have a good spirit. I know you're a good person. I know that this is impacting you. And he was just like, I haven't slept in 4 days. And I was on Air Force 2. They let me go. They let me go from work to go on Air Force 2 to go meet Erica in Arizona. And I was just like, how do you feel? And he's just like, I feel everything and nothing at the same time. And for anyone that's experienced the loss of a loved one, we understand this. But for him, he saw his friend and his mentor. He saw him in such a way that nobody should see anyone. And the one slight thing at the end, as we were talking, was he's like, man, it's just so surreal talking to you now. Like, I'm sorry that's under the circumstance that we're talking, but I'm really happy to be talking to you. And I was like, don't be an emotional bitch on me now. And he said, give me a second, motherfucker. And he said, you were the person that pulled me into politics. And I was like, what? It's like, hold there for a second. He was like, yeah, back in college when we worked on that congressional campaign, you were the one that got me interested. You were the one that pulled me in. And I was like, dude, I wish you hadn't said that. If I knew, I would have gotten you addicted to drugs or something. And he was like, it would have been a lot less painful than this. And we just laughed for a minute. And I never anticipated that. I'm not trying to put a spotlight on me whatsoever, but we've talked about the millions of Charlie Kirks out there, and it takes a lot, and it's frustrating. And for anyone that's been in this movement and activism and media and policy, it's 100 shit days for one good day, if you get the good day, and that's 100 shit days after that. But I never knew that about him, and to know that because I pulled him in to help me intern with a campaign on a campus that I was leading the campaign efforts for, that because I did that, he went on to go do great things. He went on to go be, the go-to guy for Charlie Kirk, and now he's in the White House supporting our great president. Yeah. That for me felt so weird. But that also realized it's like I did a little thing. Charlie did a big thing. But it's up to all of us to continue on to do the hard work. And that was, that helped me go to sleep last night.
Well, I have to, we need to run. We're out of time tonight. Any final thoughts from you guys? That'll be it for, thank you, Remzo, for that. That's an incredible story, by the way. I know it sounds cold when I'm like, gotta go. But Chris, haven't heard from you for a minute here.
No, I just appreciate everybody's thoughts here. And, again, what can we do about it? Let's hold our politicians and our media accountable, and hit them where it hurts at the polls. And if we need recall elections, let's do that. And by not spending money with people that are feeding us poison.
Good God, don't give money to people who hate you. That's one of my big things. Gruber, what do you got for me?
Do the work. Yeah. Do the work. Reap what Charlie sowed. Do the work.
Shell.
Be his voice now. We're his voice now. We are Charlie now.
Yeah. I can't add any more than that. I just again want to give credit where credit's due here. The staff over Turning Point. They are hit the hardest, other than family, because they were family to him, and they are working to honor him and their young kids. I just can't imagine. I can't imagine. And so, guys, pray for everybody. And thanks for being here tonight. And be good to everybody. And we will see you very soon. I'm glad you guys got to join us. You can go follow all these fantastic people. I think I've tagged most of them. Hot Tamale, Hey Remzo, Dallas ex-CEO, and Steve Gruber Show. Thanks for being here, guys. And we will see you all next time. And again, just throw out prayers for everybody and be friendly and all that kind of stuff, and don't cheer for